Sin has brought meaninglessness, even to those things that God has created to experience under the sun. Many times we want to talk to people about life after death, but to properly understand life after death, you also have to understand life before death, the life that is under the sun. And he makes a declaration of vanity, pervasive vanity, all is vanity. When all is said and all is done, all is vanity under the sun.
Putting life in biblical perspective with Dr. Harry L. Reeder. This is In Perspective, a radio and internet ministry of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelical. C.S. Lewis wrote, "I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy. The only explanation is that I was made for another world." We all fear the sense of meaninglessness and insignificance as we spend our lives seeking to fill that void within us. But Ecclesiastes reveals a deep, abiding longing for something more, specifically for God Himself. Stay with us now as Dr. Reeder takes us to Ecclesiastes chapters 1 and 2 for today's teaching, part 2 of the message, Is There Any Hope?
Can I stop here just for a moment? I remember after I was converted, I then all of a sudden wanted to start learning things. It's amazing how you want to learn after you become a Christian. It's amazing how the Bible calls you to learn. And I remember, of course, going back to school. I remember all of a sudden that grade point average that I dug a pretty deep hole began to be addressed with, now I'm actually making A's, and now I'm all kinds of experiences. And then I get a call to the ministry, and I realized while East Carolina rivals Athens in terms of its intellectual commitments and insights, that was a joke, I still needed something more if I'm going to go into the ministry. So I went over to Covenant College, and in the 1970s, early 1971, there was an experience I had. One was sitting in a classroom, and are you kidding me? I learned more in that classroom than I had in 2 years at the school I was going to, because it was a Christian education from a Christian world and life view, under the preeminence of Christ, a Christian mind. And I got excited. I was willing and ready to move, and we did. My wife, expecting our child, and myself got in the car with everything we owned in a U-Haul it and $75 with no job and no place to stay, pulled up on that mountain and enrolled in school. God was very gracious. He is gracious to His people in many ways, and He was gracious to us. But another reason I got in the car and did that was I heard them sing the college hymn. All for Jesus, all for Jesus, all my being's ransom powers, all my days, all my thoughts, all my hours. You mean my head can actually be used for something besides a baseball cap and a golf visor? And it was just absolutely thrilling. And I confess to you that thrill of learning life from the perspective above the sun, a God-centered, Christ-centered, Christ-exalting world and life view based not upon man's philosophical wanderings and meanderings, but upon divine revelation, the inspired and errant Word of God that deals with all of life, has been glorious. The problem's not education. The problem was the solution of education that was under the sun. It only adds to the vexation. It only adds to the sorrow. It cannot answer it. It doesn't matter how many degrees. The degrees of an education under the sun not only doesn't solve it, it actually adds to the vexation of society. Secondly, he doesn't stop there. He goes now, well, if that doesn't work, let me try another God as a solution. So go with me to chapter 2 and verse 1. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly. I made great works. I built houses. I planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the children of man. So I became great. I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. So let me stop there. So what is he saying? Well, I know what the answer is. If the answer is not found in education, the answer is found in appetite gratification. And I will do everything I can to make sure that all of my appetites are satiated and gratified, full to overflowing. Again, as one of the commentators made the point, he didn't leave anything out. He had the concubines, he had the singers, and he had the wine. So there you are, wine, women, and song. And he satiated himself with all of it. Here was the Epicurean. Solomon the Epicurean, Solomon the hedonist, Solomon who would deny himself nothing, Solomon who would not only have multiple wives but concubines, Solomon who would have the singers to sing for him, Solomon who would own everything he possibly could, plant things that he would fill his appetites of eat and drinking with, and the result was nothing but emptiness. Go with me. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. All my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So here, he says that hedonism, his Epicureanism, his gratification of all his appetites, his self-absorption with the gratification of every appetite, as he would live to eat, live to drink, live for sex, live for everything that he possibly could satiate his God-given appetites with. God-given appetites that, when gratified to the glory of God, can be enjoyed. Now we're gratified in the place of God. And all they did was add to his meaningless. More striving after the wind. More emptiness. And then he says, go with me to the next one. So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly, for what can man do who comes after the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there is more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceive that the same event happens to all of them. And then I said in my heart, well, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity, for of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life because of what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and striving after the wind. Now, what is he saying here? He's saying, well, look, I tried the wisdom, and that wasn't the solution. That just brought greater vexation. I tried self-gratification. That brought vexation, emptiness, striving after the wind. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do them both. And so he puts them together, hedonism and education. And he says there were meaningful experiences of exhilaration at the moment in all of them. But when it was said and done, the educated was no better off than the fool. The one gratified in the appetite was as empty as the one who'd had no gratification. I'm still empty. Education under the sun doesn't work. Gratification of appetite under the sun doesn't work. Doing them both together, that doesn't work. Well, let me try something else. Go with me, if you would, to a fourth solution. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair. I turned around and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun. Because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he has given the busyness of gathering and collecting, only to give it to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. So let me kind of give you the sense of what this is saying, and then we'll have just a closing conclusion. He comes to a fourth answer, and the fourth answer is work for success. And when you work for success, your work and your success, that will be the solution. That will be meaning. I'll keep working and keep adding to my possessions. Notice what he says. And by the way, you'll notice that the preacher is going back and forth between these four. They're not just in clear categories, because he keeps moving from one to the other. You know, while I'm pursuing my appetites, I'm holding on to wisdom. And while I'm pursuing my appetites and holding on to wisdom, I'm toiling. I'm becoming great in Jerusalem, and nobody was like me. And look at all that I own. Look at all that I have. Look at my toil. And I am successful. I have everything. I have access to everything. I'm in control of all of this. I have everything that I have, and yet it is meaningless. And by the way, well, you've all seen the bumper sticker, and you've all heard this statement. You've never seen a U-Haul it behind a hearse. When you're called home, everything you've worked for here is still here. You'll be amazed at who gets it when you leave here. Oh, I know that there will be wonderful people who will give you wonderful legal documents, and you'll be able to control it after you die. Don't believe a word of it. You got a pretty good shot at it, but it's still going to go somewhere else. The bumper sticker I like is, being of sound mind and body, I spin it. Or maybe better, being of sound mind and body, I gave it. I was sitting talking to a guy the other day. This is an aside. He's a man who I greatly respect with his wisdom and insight on finances. And he said, you know, Harry, I sit down and talk with Christians all the time, and they're saying, I want to protect what I've got so I can get it to my children. And he said, what I love to do is tell them, and I know y'all are going to think this is self-serving, but I thought it was very insightful. He said, I always tell them, how many kids you got? He said, 2, 3, 4. He said, I'd like for you to add another kid to that list. What would you like to see these resources do for the kingdom when you leave? Why don't you add that to your planning? But the fact is, even those best plans, one government legislative act, and it's amazing who will end up with it. It's amazing who will control it. Life under the sun is not answered by success in work under the sun. Now again, is there anything wrong with education? No. Is there anything wrong with appetite gratification under the glory of God? Whether you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. That these things have been created that you might enjoy them as you give thanks unto the Lord, as Paul tells Timothy. All of these things, yes, have their place when it is governed above the sun. But when it is under the sun, the solutions actually exacerbate the vanity and the meaninglessness. But isn't it interesting, even in the midst of this, the answer punches through. All of a sudden, he starts speaking of God. All of a sudden, right at this very end, as he's gone through the vanity of everything in this world, in a fallen world, all that God made that was good has been subjected to vanity and meaninglessness because of the curse of sin. And then whenever you try to raise up your solution to it from that which God has created, that which you raise up as a solution under the sun only exacerbates the problem. But in the midst of it, it breaks through to him and he says this is the hand of God. It is God who is bringing this meaningless to bear in my mind and my heart, that I might know the answer is not found under the sun. The answer is found above the sun, the one who made the sun and the earth and all that is in it. There is the one. It is his wisdom, his knowledge that brings his joy instead of vanity. His wisdom, his knowledge that brings his joy. And that's where my answer will be found. To the impenitent sinner, it's just merely what you have put together. Watch how God eventually uses it where he wants to use it and gives it to whom he wants to give it. Watch what he does with it in his providence and see the vanity of not only this earth under the curse of sin, but your solutions under the sun. And then watch what God does with it when you have life before death and not know life after death. Those are his answers, and that is where he has brought them. You know, Paul is going to use this. He's going to write something in Romans chapter 3. It's the echo of this. There is none who is righteous. No, not one. There is none who understands. You can get as many degrees as you want, but until your heart and your mind are owned by God, none understand. It is the fool that says there is no God. There is none who understands, no, not one. They all have turned astray to go after their own way. And then he gets to the verdict in Romans chapter 3, when he gets to the last verse. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Add under the sun. And all of the solutions to that sin under the sun only add to the vexation under the sun. But praise God, he doesn't end in Romans 3:23. He also gets to Romans 6:23. For the wages of sin, that's death, nothing but vanity. But there is a God who has a solution. And God's solution is this: when you pursue sin because you want God's place, there's a God who has loved you and sent his son to take your place. There's your answer. Your answer came from beyond the sun, when the heavens were opened and the Son of God himself came down to this earth to take our place on the cross. Sin under the sun, it eradicates meaning, it eradicates joy, it eradicates anything that's fulfilling for any period of time. Oh, there will be momentary exhilarations of sin, but then I need another experience. And deeper into depravity you have to go. And deeper into vexation, you are gone. The solutions that are rooted under the sun, penetrated by man's rebellion against God, education, appetite fulfillment, success, work, ownership, being great in the eyes of the world, it never answers. Folks, go look at those who control so much of the money, so much of the fame. We call them celebrities. Look at the hours and the money they spend on therapists. Doesn't work. The gods don't deliver. There is no solution to sin's destruction under the sun. It's only more vanity. But there is a God who has loved you, who has given his son, who has taken your place and my place on a cross. And there is a glorious, glorious moment that strikes at our heart. Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? If there is anyone who ought not to be forsaken, it was him, but he was for you. Here is your solution. The one who came to this earth to save us from our sins. It was 2120 Shenandoah Avenue. It was a part of the day that I love. That part of the day is the gloaming. I do not like the dawning. That's entirely too early. But I love the gloaming. I love that moment when day is becoming night and the breeze is blowing and the lights are starting to shimmer That is my favorite time of the day. The poets call it the gloaming, and they have many words to rhyme with it and many poems that extol it. Personally, I'm not capable of any of that, but I love the gloaming. 2120 Shenandoah Avenue, I don't know the date, but I remember the experience of being in the backyard. There were 5 pine trees in our backyard, and I laid underneath them, and I looked up as the sky was now losing its bright blue to a darker blue and soon to become a dark night, and I just laid there. And I looked up, and now stars upon stars, and I remember being overwhelmed at the infinitude of the heavens, and then the sense of eternity. And the question, why am I here? I was only 10 years old, but I remember it just like it was yesterday. Well, I was 10, so I found a way to cope with it and dismiss that pretty quickly. And then I remember 1342 Tarrington Avenue. And I remember a night when I went to bed. Again, I don't know the date, but I remember the moment. I was laying on my side, listening to the radio, Big Waves 610 on the radio dial. And as I was listening, the music stopped. I cut it down, and then I could hear and feel my heartbeat and realize one day it won't. And then I remember East Carolina University, and I remember a night in my sophomore year that there's not much I don't remember about that night, but I remember it was one more effort of self-absorption, self-gratification, and self-exaltation. And when the party was over and everyone was gone, I was sitting outside looking at that same sky, and I realized how empty I was. It was nothing. I want to tell you what God very graciously did for me. God allowed me to flunk out of that school, and I greatly helped him accomplish that. I came home on my way, as far as I knew, to the Marine Corps, but God had someone else for me to meet, and that was Cindy. And I saw someone that had stability and meaning that I didn't have. Now, I put the blustery picture on it, but she had it, I didn't, and I wanted it. And in the kindness of God, I found it because he found me. And the answer was no longer me under the sun. The answer was now the God of glory who became the shepherd of my soul. It is that answer that the preacher is going to continue to bring us to. So let's keep taking the journey through Ecclesiastes. The preacher is honest about the issue, the problem, and the only solution, the God of glory, who alone brings meaning, knowledge, and joy.
You're listening to In Perspective, featuring the teaching of Dr. Harry L. Reeder. Our sermon series, From Vanity to Vitality, Ecclesiastes in Biblical Perspective. Parenting. It has never been easy. But in today's culture with numerous challenges, we need as much help as we can get. Parenting with Purpose and Promise is a significant part of Dr. Reeder's series, 7 Essentials for the Christian Family. And this series is our free gift to you when you call 1-800-488-1888 or when you visit us at inperspective.org. The wisdom of this world would tell you to invest in your future, and there is certainly a place for that. But God's wisdom would also encourage us to invest in His kingdom, and supporting this radio and internet ministry is a great way to do so. You can make a single contribution or become a monthly donor by visiting our website at inperspective.org. You might choose instead to call us at 1-800-488-1888, and our postal address is 600 Eden Road, Lancaster, Pennsylvania 17601. We are grateful that you listen to In Perspective. When you reach out to us, please mention the call letters or dial position of the radio station you are hearing. If you listen online, take note of the website address. Knowing how you connect with us will help us be better stewards of the resources God has entrusted to us. And once again, if you would like to receive our gift offer, the series 7 Essentials for the Christian Family, call and request your free copy at 1-800-488-1888. Join us again next time as Dr. Reeder explains how time itself is created by God and subject to His sovereignty. That's next time as we turn back to the Scriptures to put life in biblical perspective.